A few weeks ago, we covered the media's attempt to memory hole Kamala Harris's role as the border czar in an attempt to portray Kamala as tough on immigration. However, now she's getting advice from a longtime far-left activist. Blaze Media's national correspondent, Julio Rosas, recently wrote a piece about this on Blaze News, and he joins us right now. So, Julio, spill the beans. Who's this far-left advisor? Who are we looking at?
So Frank Sharry, he's a longtime, some would say, open borders advocate. He had this organization within the United States, and the reason why I'm specifically saying the United States is because recently he just advised the UK's Labour Party on how to campaign on the issue of immigration, right? And similarly, although it's not a one-to-one comparison, the UK has their own immigration problem. It is slightly different because it is an island, and while they do have some people coming in on boats, the main way people come in is kind of similar with the Biden-Harris administration of flying people in to the country, and obviously a lot of British people are upset about that. And so Frank Sharry was recently tapped to advise the party and this think tank on how to campaign on the issue of kind of threading that needle of acknowledging that the problem exists, but not buying into the Conservative Party's framing of it. And so that's why it's significant, because Harris is trying to portray herself as being tough on the border, as someone who I just saw an ad that highlighted that she's a border state politician. And yet obviously the history of just her position as vice president has been absolutely atrocious on the border. And that's why you can't really believe what she's saying, because if she's being advised by someone like Frank Sharry, who at the very start of the administration went on C-SPAN and said, yes, this new administration has the right idea, has the right approach to the border. And then within a couple of weeks, we saw the explosion of illegal immigration that has been going on for a couple of years now.
Yeah, Julio, illegal immigration is one of the top issues for Americans. I think, along with the economy, people are very concerned about this migrant crisis. And I think that's why Kamala Harris is flipping on this issue, trying to act like she's tough on the border, when in fact, she has been in charge of this open border. To what extent do you think people will see through Kamala Harris's lies? And do you think they will kind of blame her for a lot of the Biden administration's failures when it comes to the border?
So I think it's going to be a bit of a mix, right? Because unlike the issue of the economy, where people have to buy groceries, every week and buy gas, the issue of immigration as a whole is a little bit harder to see unless you are directly impacted by, say, you have a shelter in your neighborhood. And so because that's not really happening all across the country, so I have seen some people, at least online, and take that with a grain of salt, kind of buy into the narrative that she and the Democratic Party has put forth, especially with this issue of, Trump, quote unquote, killed this very tough bipartisan Senate bill, which, of course, that was a mixed bag, and that was, anything but. They've been using that talking point over and over to try to rehabilitate her culpability in all this. But also at the same time, people know. People know that she is a part of this administration. People know that this isn't how things used to be prior to the Biden-Harris administration coming into power. And I really think that, as we get closer to November, we're going to see an uptick in activity, because right now it has kind of died down a little bit in terms of illegal crossings. But only just recently did they stop their mass parole program of flying people into the country. And that was because of a large number of instances of fraud, which, surprise, surprise, yes, that's going to happen when you expand a program that's not designed to be used in the way that they've been using it. So I think it's going to be a little bit mixed. I think the Democrats are desperate to try to seem tough on the border. And so they just hammered the talking point of, Trump killed this bipartisan bill. So I think, but at the same time, people have seen, and as I've reported on for the past couple of years, they've seen the videos of thousands of people crossing over at a single time. And that's something that's hard to explain away when you've been number two in this administration.
Well, once they get here now, Julio, they're here to stay, because we have new data that says that 90% of the migrants who enter the country illegally are now staying here. But I thought Joe Biden was saying that he was trying to crack down on some illegal immigration. We saw the executive order come out. So, Julio, why are they actually going against this right now?
Well, so that's the other half of the equation for this explosion of people coming in illegally, right? Because it has to be more than just the border being open, which it has been under this administration, because people have seen that not only has it never been easier to illegally enter the country, but it's never been easier to actually stay, right? Because the threat of deportation for decades has been something that the immigrant community, the illegal immigrant community, has been so afraid of because sure, you can get in, sure, you can sneak in and start establishing a life. But the fear has always been that if they catch you, you're going back home, right? But because of this administration has really deprioritized deportations as well, so even if they're part of this program that you're referring to, yeah, they have a 90% chance of actually being able to stay. So people just respond to incentives. I mean, that's just a basic human attribute. And so when people see, okay, we can get in very easily, and our chances of being able to stay in the country is the highest it's ever been. Of course, people are going to take that chance, and because I mean, for all intents and purposes, they're going to wins that bet. So that just once again proves that the Biden and Harris administration's tough talk about the border, immigration as a whole, it doesn't really mean anything because the actual actions and policies, either they don't follow through, or as I just mentioned, it's plagued with fraud and tons of loopholes that people are able to take advantage of.
Yeah, this is just an atrocity. Every single illegal alien that has come in under the Joe Biden and Kamala Harris administration needs to be deported. We need mass deportations. This is something that Trump has talked about. One of his key points is mass deportations. How do you contrast that with Kamala Harris's message? Because she wants to seem a little bit more tough on the border, but of course is not going to use a lot of the language that Donald Trump uses when it comes to the border. And honestly, these people, I mean, they're going to become leftist voters. So we cannot go soft on this issue. So how do you think these two kind of takes on the border compare to one another? Of course, Donald Trump, tough on this issue, mass deportations, Kamala Harris, waffling. Of course, she's been open borders, but how do you compare the two?
Well, it's only been fairly recently, right? This change in tone and rhetoric from the Harris camp, because she was talking about there's that clip on The View from a couple years ago where she said that, yeah, we need to decriminalize illegal immigration, the crime of crossing the border illegally, instead of having it needs to be a civil issue as opposed to a criminal one in the eyes of the law. And I mean, again, that's why it's significant that, like I said, that ad recently said that she's a border state Democrat that's been tough on the border. But I think that unlike Harris, Trump actually has a record to more than just moving the needle within the party. It's a matter of he's actually did try to do things while he was in office, with building the border wall, having the Remain in Mexico policy, having the third country agreements that we had with the Northern Triangle countries in Central America, to further reduce that was actually further reducing the root causes, which is what Harris was supposedly in charge of, right? So you can't get rid of. You can't ignore that, right? You really can't. Yeah, politicians talk all the time, and it's true for anybody, but especially when it comes to this issue, it's like, okay, who actually did what with the power that they had at the time? The border has been an issue for a very, very long time. I'm not saying that it was 100% perfect under Trump, but having been to the border since 2019, and talking to people who have lived there and worked there their entire lives, they will always tell you that we were trending in the right direction under Trump. And then on day one, it completely unraveled under this current administration, and it's only gotten worse since. So again, when you look at the people who actually see it for what it is and what it has been, this I don't think people are going to really buy the Harris rebrand, at least with when it comes to independent voters. Obviously, the left leaning, they will probably buy into it because they're desperate, right? They were looking at losing the reelection with Biden. Yeah. But this issue is definitely not going to go away anytime soon.